I'll welcome Sami Langat to take us through the program for the day. Karibu Sami.
Thank you.
Karibu, karibu.
Yeah. Thank you. My name is Sami Langat. In the program there, I've been described as former. Then I'm just wondering, so what am I right now? I used to work with KCB with Lucy. Lucy is the one who organized this event. I also worked with the bank for quite some time. I was former CEO of Transnational Bank. But right now I export coffee, but also do quite a number of things apart from that. You see, when you work in the bank, you know everyone. You know everything about everyone, especially in terms of money. You saw the girls who were running yesterday. When they won, they were asked, so what will you do? He says, first thing I want to do is to build my mother a house. Did you hear this? To build my mother a house. And even the ones who have already won, when they went out to the village out there, they built their parents' houses. Same thing. When we network, when we interact, when we make business, all what we want to do is to do something that it has always been in our mind. Somebody else would want to buy a home. And I'm sure a lot of individuals here. So when somebody says, if I go to Canada, when I get there, I'll make money and come back home and build a house. Because this is the essence of making money. I told some people the other day, just as part of the introduction, that when money is in your pocket, how do you behave? You know, you're different. Yeah, put money, 50,000 shillings in your pocket. Walk, come and remove it. Walk to town without it. You'll feel you're a different person. You know, the emotional part of having that money is like insecurity. It also depends on where you come from. When money is in the pocket of a Kalenji, it behaves differently. That's when money is in the pocket of a Luya or a Luo or a Kikuyu, they're all different. When money is in the pocket of a professional, it's also different. So those are the things that when we now come to interact, we just said, wow, these are the things that we would need to know. But that will be another session for some day. Today we are just here to make networks, interact, and make business contacts. This has been arranged by Lucy. Lucy Jeffrey. Lucy Jeffrey is a Canadian citizen, also at the same time. And she's the host of this event, as we're just facilitating it. She owns the Bluewater Business Connect and a host of other businesses out there in Canada. When she makes money, she's also saying the same thing. When I make money, I want to go and invest in Kenya somewhere. Then she's monitored this event and has arranged everything, and we're just grateful for her networks. Now today, we're here to make a connection. There are people who may want to make that connection through maybe going abroad, make money, and come and spend it here. Or make money and spend it there. How do you do it? If you want to go to Canada, for example, how do you get there? Or what are the challenges that get what are there? So those are the things that we would want to hear today. Then we'll also hear from someone who is in Canada, who knows the immigration laws of the country, what is it that you require to get there? It's just Canada, but others may want to go to England or wherever it is, make money. This is just that the business connection network that we want to do today. Then we'll also hear now from someone who can arrange for you here and go there. And when you are there and you have made money, if you want to invest there, what are the challenges? Then if you want to invest in Kenya, what are the challenges and how are they? So we are also going to hear from someone to do that. Now, if you have made so much money, if you want to invest in a house, what are you going to do? So we'll also hear from the people who are building those houses so that you can be able to invest. Just like the same thing, the runner who ran in the Olympics, they did so well, but the first thing, they want to invest in their parents. So without much ado, we'll want to hear from a Canadian immigration or from Canadian Immigration Law Services. We have Donovan Francis. And Donovan Francis is an experienced lawyer, is knowledgeable in Canadian law, is the managing lawyer at Goose Law Immigration Professional Corporation, which is located in Ontario, Canada. His law firm helps employers to bring employees to Canada or to take employees to Canada, and especially the tech skills employees or whichever kinds of employees. He's exploring ways to recommend Kenya to Canadians through investment. That is back here. So for everyone, I think it will be a good opportunity to listen to Donovan. After Donovan has talked, then we'll now go through just a brief on session with somebody who can arrange for travel, connect you for travel. Then we also hear now from the program, as we go on the program from Mwenda, if we will have come, somebody who has been there and has come back to invest, then now the investment opportunities that are available here in Kenya. So without much ado, we'd want to welcome Donovan Francis. Donovan Francis, come. I looked at him and I just said, aren't you Kenyan? So I thought he's Kenyan.
I feel Kenyan.
You feel Kenyan. Yes. We'll make you Kenyan.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sammy. Thanks for the very kind introduction. So I'm looking around and I'm trying to figure out who has money in their pockets. Just based on what Sammy said, I want to see, whose mannerism indicates that they have money in their pocket. At the moment, I can't quite tell, but I suspect most of us do. It's a pleasure to be here. Thanks for turning out, coming to hear what we have to say today. So what I'm going to be doing, I'm going to be talking a bit about our law firm, myself, what we do, that kind of a thing. And then after that, we're going to be looking at, I'm going to be listening to ways in which opportunities that might exist for Canadians who might have an interest in investing in Canada. But before I do that, I really couldn't start without kind of talking about our experience here in Kenya. We've been here for 2 weeks, my family and I. My family is here. My wife, Taisha, Zola, and Zuri. Yes, it's a Swahili name. I told you, Sammy said it. I'm kind of Kenyan in my heart. So yeah, we've been here for 2 weeks, and the experience has been phenomenal. I did not realize, just a little about myself. So I'm a Canadian citizen, a Canadian immigration lawyer. I studied law in Canada, but I'm Jamaican by birth. And my wife and I grew up in Jamaica. We did our undergraduate degree in Jamaica. So we went to Canada when we were adults. And the thing that I did not quite expect when I came to Kenya is just how much Kenyans have embraced Jamaican music and culture. I was blown away, you know, and I mean, it's left me with one problem. My wife has fallen in love with Kenya. And so, you know, I don't know if have to go back without her. That would be a problem. But the experience has been, you know, just phenomenal. The similarities are very, very evident. This is our first time in Kenya, obviously. We've been to Rwanda, we've been to Ghana, but Kenya, there's something there with the connection that just is something that we didn't quite anticipate. So it's been a really, really good first 2 weeks, and we're already looking forward to being back in Kenya sometime soon. So a little about the firm. The name of the firm is Goose Law Immigration. We are a Canadian law firm. We're comprised of three lawyers, 2 full-time lawyers and 1 contract lawyer. And we have in total about eight employees. We focus primarily on helping companies bring their employees to Canada. And what I mean by that is, you know, many people don't know that the bulk of the immigration that happens in Canada actually happens between corporations, large companies, you know, some of them are tech companies, and they have many employees who they must transfer to their Canadian branch so that those employees can do work in Canada. And those companies need work permits for their employees, right? So those are called intra-company transfers. So most of the work permits that happen, that are issued in Canada, actually get issued through programs like these. So if you think about a program like, a company rather like Microsoft, they have an office here, right, in Nairobi. I believe they do. Microsoft and Google, and they have offices here. They would have had to transfer employees probably from their San Francisco office to their Nairobi office, right? You don't see that stuff every day, but they would, because the skill sets that those employees have are not necessarily going to be available just yet locally. And that kind of stuff happens in Canada as well. So we do a lot of that kind of work. But we also provide support with other types of immigration work for individuals and families, right? So we provide support with study permits, for instance, for international students. We provide support where an international student may have run into issues. In fact, there's a case that we're handling from Kenya of a student who applied on his study permit and was unfair, and he came to us, and we were able to challenge that successfully, and they've come back asking for a settlement, right? A settlement is where they say, okay, we messed up, reopen the file and resend it to be reconsidered. So we do that kind of stuff as well. So we do stuff for international students. We do stuff for families who are wanting to migrate to Canada. And we also do stuff for investors. So people who are high net worth individuals who want to set up a business in Canada and use that business as a means to transition to Canada, we do provide support with those kinds of things as well. But our bread and butter is with providing immigration support to businesses primarily, who are transferring employees between their home country and Canada. Are you following? Okay, all right. I would have done this presentation in Swahili, but I suspect I would have been the only person who would have understood what I was saying. So I've opted to resort to English. So that's a little bit about us. You know, we've been featured in a number of media houses, and we've gotten an opportunity to speak at conferences and so on, such as Collision Conference, and so on. So that's who we are in a nutshell. So now, let's talk about, what most persons here would be interested in learning about, the different pathways for Canadian immigration. And I've broken those down into 3 broad categories. There are options for individuals and their families. Then there are going to be options for businesses, which is what I referenced a while ago. And finally, there are going to be options for investors. Individuals and families. Generally speaking, Canada has an immigration program that is geared towards attracting people with high skill sets, right? And those skill sets are either going to be in, job types that are targeted at people with higher levels of education, or they're going to be targeted at people whose skill sets are unique and who are not readily available inside Canada. And so what you find is that the immigration programs are designed in such a way to only attract people within, who have certain skill sets, people within a certain age range, and people with certain language skills. And I'll go through that kind of broadly. So somebody who wants to come to Canada as a permanent resident, for instance, just as an example, is, your age is going to be a factor. If you're between the ages of 22 and 33, then that's going to be favorable. Once you get to about 33, then your overall point score starts going down. So that's, it's okay. I fall in that category as well. So that's one of the factors that's taken into consideration. Another factor that's taken into consideration is your education level. If you have a first degree, that's going to be favorable. If you have a master's, that's going to be even more favorable. If you have a PhD, then good on you. And then a third factor that's taken into consideration would be your work experience in a professional type job. Okay, if you have 2 or more years of experience, those things are going to come into the equation. And then the third thing is your ability to function and to perform well in English or French, right? So those 4 factors are crucial factors in helping you to kind of assess whether or not applying for Canadian permanent residency is going to be an option. But that's one route that's going to be available to families and individuals who are wanting to come to Canada as permanent residents. All right. Another route is coming as an international student. Now, in maybe a year or so ago, this would have been perhaps the most accessible means for somebody to come to Canada, even people with their families. They would have been able to come. Your spouse, your accompanying spouse would have been able to get a work permit, and your kids would have been able to get study permits, and eventually you'd have been able to transition. That has become more difficult, because the government has implemented some new measures effective January of this year that make it more challenging. It now makes the international study permit program more accessible to people who have the financial means. So for instance, the proof of funds requirement has been raised. Generally speaking, somebody wanting to come to Canada must prove that they have sufficient funds to take care of themselves and their families, right? The government wants to be sure that whoever is coming is not going to be dependent on social services and so on. So there's that requirement. But in recent months, the government has increased the minimum sum that you must show that you have in order to be eligible. So that's one change that has been made to the international study program. And the other change that has been made is that now only persons who are coming to do a master's or some kind of a postgraduate program are going to be able to get an open spousal work permit, meaning a work permit to take their spouses with them. Previously, it didn't matter what you were studying. You could have been coming to do a 1-year diploma. You would have been eligible to get an open spousal work permit. That now is only available to persons coming to study at the postgraduate level, the master's level, or a postgraduate diploma, or a PhD, or something like that. Are you following? So to summarize, the international student program remains an option, but it's an option that's going to be more accessible to people who have the financial means, people who can show that they have the minimum amount of money, right? And this is your money. You're not giving it to the Canadian government. You're merely showing them your bank accounts, right, to prove to them that you'll be able to take care of yourselves, right? And there are lots of nuances that we'd have to talk about, if ever you had an interest around this whole proof of funds requirements, and what you can do. Some people overnight, they gather the community and they dump as much money as they can into their account the day before they apply. And that doesn't work, So there are so many little nuances that we'd have to talk about. But broadly speaking, that's going to be one way that an individual and or family may be able to transition to Canada. And it actually is still perhaps the most utilized channel, right? Because when you come to Canada as an international student, upon completing your studies, you qualify for what's called a postgraduate work permit, right? Which allows you to work in Canada, assuming you can find a job in your area of study. And that's a whole other conversation, right? I like to be very candid when I do my talks and my consultations. I like to talk about the good, and I also like to talk about the bad, because it's important that we know that, right? So if somebody is coming to Canada to complete studies in, I don't know, maybe linguistics or some area that really isn't a high demand area, then your chances of securing a job when you're done working are going to be substantially lower than somebody who is coming to pursue studies, say, in the tech space, or somebody who is in the healthcare industry or some other high demand industry. So all of those things are also going to be important when you're wanting to make these decisions. All right? So that's another option available to individuals and families. And I'm keeping an eye on my time here, because I don't want to get arrested by Sammy. But I think I'm doing well for time. Good. Yes, okay. So individuals and families, those are going to be some of the options available: permanent residency, study permits. Work permits are an option, but they good to see you, Charles. That can be a challenge for many persons. So we get a lot of people who are reaching out saying, okay, I want a work permit. But the thing is, the way the Canadian immigration system is set up, in order for you to get a work permit, you must first have identified a Canadian employer, right? That employer must then be willing to offer you a job. That's number two. And then thirdly, that employer must go and get the go-ahead, the blessing from the government. So there are three things that you require before you can even think about applying for a work permit. Okay? So applying for coming to Canada on a work permit is a viable option, but it's going to be challenging. It has been challenging for persons who don't already have an employer. So, as I indicated earlier, many of our clients are corporate clients who already have employees within their employment, and they're merely transferring those employees from India to Canada, or from the US to Canada, or from some other country where those companies already have an office established, right? So an individual wanting to come to Canada on a work permit must first secure an offer from a Canadian employer. All right, so that's the side of the story that you're not always told, right? Yes, you may apply for a work permit, but getting a work permit is often going to be very challenging if you do not already have the support of a Canadian employer. Yes? Have I lost you? No, okay. All right. So that's that for individuals and family. For businesses, there are opportunities for persons who operate businesses in Kenya, and who want to set something up in Canada and use that as a means to become established in Canada, right? There are different investor type programs, and many of these programs are operated at the provincial level. So in Canada, immigration is federally managed by the federal government. But each province has some degree of autonomy to create and operate their own individual immigration programs. And so what most provinces have created are what are called provincial investor programs. And these programs are designed to help the provinces, meet their employment needs. So a province may recognize that, we don't have enough employers in the tech space or in the agricultural space. And that province may say, okay, we have an investor program. This program is geared at attracting persons from overseas who have the net worth. Usually people who have a minimum of, say, 500,000 Canadian dollars as their net worth, not necessarily cash in hand, but your net worth. Usually individuals who fall into that category and who have some kind of prior business management experience are going to be able to apply to establish a business in Canada firstly, and then having established that business, use it as a means to become permanent residents themselves and to take their family with them to Canada. All right? So that's just one of the investor programs. Another program that's available to people with high net worth is something called the startup visa, and that's something that we're actively involved in, and that does not necessarily require one to have a high net worth, but you must have an innovative business idea. You must have actually taken some steps towards, turning that business into a profitable business in your home country, and you want now to transfer that to Canada so it can be scaled and expanded. So that's called the startup visa. That's going to be available to people who are innovators, business people, startup people, those, and not just in the tech space, but a lot of these startups are usually in the tech space, right? So that's something else that's going to be available to Kenyans who are involved in innovative type businesses. So I've touched on the options available to individuals, I've touched on the options available to businesses, and I've touched on the options available to investors. And there's so much more that we could talk about, but I will allow you to ask your questions during the Q&A, and then the questions that can be addressed then we will address. Now, there are some things you need to be aware of before going to Canada, and one of them is that, and I hinted at it earlier, Canada is not for everyone, right? There are some areas that are more high demand than others. And so you will have to do your research to determine if the skill sets you possess are the skill sets that are going to help you to become successful in Canada. Because the truth is that, in Canada today, there are many persons who've come and who've struggled, right? And they won't necessarily tell you. So when they're coming, to your country and to my country, Jamaica, when they're going back, they go all dressed up, looking good. But the truth is that those who can go back sometimes struggle. And so it is important that if you're looking to transition, that you are clear on what your transition plan is going to be, right? And how your skill sets are going to help you to transition, if that is something you're keen on doing. So having that knowledge prior is always going to be important. Another important thing to bear in mind is if you are in a profession that requires you to be licensed in Canada, then you will want to be adequately informed, adequately prepared ahead of time so that you are better able to navigate the licensing process, right? So people who are in professions such as nursing, if you want to practice as a nurse in Canada, you have to be licensed. And the licensing requirements vary from province to province. And sometimes that can be a barrier. Taisha, my wife, she's a nursing professor, and she's seen many instances of people who've been trained, in their home countries coming and not being able to practice because the licensing can be a barrier. So that is something else you need to be aware of if you are wanting to come to Canada. There are licensing requirements. Proof of funds, which I just spoke to a while ago, you will be required to show that you have sufficient funds to take care of yourself and your family while you're there. So you have to be prepared to show that you have these funds. The other thing to bear in mind is that when you're applying to go to Canada, there are no guarantees. And anybody who tells you otherwise is not being honest, is not being truthful, right? We tell our clients all the time, when we submit an application for you, we cannot guarantee you that the application is going to be approved. What we can guarantee you is that you're going to get the strongest possible application, right? And the best possible advocacy. But ultimately, only the Canadian immigration authorities can decide whether or not they're going to approve an application. And I say this because, one of the challenges that dogs Canada's immigration system currently is the issue of fraud. There's a lot of immigration fraud that's happening on the internet, internationally, where people are being led to believe that if they pay, certain amounts of money, they will be guaranteed a positive outcome. And that cannot be farther from the truth. So that is something else to bear in mind if you are going to be thinking about going to Canada. And again, I'm here to tell you about the ways to get to Canada, but I'm also here to be very frank and candid with you so that you are familiar with the pitfalls ahead of time. And then the last one, which, after having been here for 2 weeks, I realized that, Kenyans will adapt quite well to Canada's weather, correct? Yes, it's been quite nippy here. So I think you'll adjust, right? Only 1 month. Okay. I think I was actually toying with you. I think you're absolutely right. The Canadian weather is something to behold. But, if the likes of us, who moved from sunny Jamaica, if we were able to adjust, I'm sure Kenyans will be able to adjust. But, a part of adjusting, and this has nothing to do with law, it's just me being me, part of adjusting has to do with the mindset. If you move to another country, sometimes you have to be willing to adjust and adapt. And oftentimes, those of our people who struggle are those of us who are not willing to adjust. So like for us, we learned how to ski, or I don't know that I'm any good at it, but we tried. And we tried to go ice skating and we tried to adjust because you can't fight the weather, you can't fight the climate. So that's something else to bear in mind if you are thinking of going to Canada. And so as I wrap up, the one last thing I want to just touch on before my other colleagues come, and before I answer your questions and then my other colleagues come, is just to talk about, investment opportunities in Kenya. So I'm part of a group in London, Ontario that is owned and operated by Lucy Jeffrey, the host of this event. Now, Lucy is a phenomenon. Lucy is a powerful Kenyan woman who came to Canada, in some of the less urban cities, one of the, not Toronto, a very Canadian city. I know there are cameras in the room. And Lucy has been able to build this organization that is a network of Canadian professionals, CEOs, law firm partners, all of these influential people. She's been able to build that network. And so among these people are people who have the means to invest in the right opportunity if they can be made aware of it and if they can be made comfortable enough to make those investments. And so part of what I'm doing is kind of listening to kind of hear what some of those opportunities are. And so that, when I go back to the next CEO's Club meeting, for instance, I can say, you know what, what Lucy has been saying all this time actually makes sense. There are opportunities there. There's a new city being built called Tattoo City. There's Unity Homes. That kind of a thing. So that's part of what I'm doing as well, kind of trying to get a better understanding so that I too can advocate when we meet with our colleagues when I get back. I like how Sammy makes me feel comfortable, and probably that's a Kenyan thing. I've never been made to feel uncomfortable since I've been here. So thank you. Our first question.
All right. Good morning. My name is Helen, and my question is: we have several, but I'll tackle one. Is he listening?
Yes, we're hearing you, Ellen.
Okay, perfect. So the first question we have on this table is, if someone is denied a visitor's visa from here, can an appeal be done through your law firm? And is
yes.
Yes.
Thank you. Good question. So the question again for those who mightn't have heard, if somebody is denied a visitor's visa, can that denial be challenged? And can we do that? And the answer is yes. And we actually have a specific example here in Kenya of a case that we're working on now, where, and I hinted at it earlier, where the client applied for a study permit and that application was unfairly denied. And that happens a lot. Because the people who make these decisions, when you submit an application, those applications go to an immigration officer. And these are just people, human beings. And they bring their own subjective views process. And Canada's immigration law allows the officers to exercise what's called discretionary power. So they have the to look at your application, everything, just arrive at a conclusion that just seems, just strange. And so it happens quite and when that happens, an applicant will have options, but options to challenge quickly, right? So for somebody who is applying in Canada, 60 days within which to challenge the decision. Somebody from inside Canada is going to provide support with that. The client here, we challenged the decision, and we did not have to go stand in front of a judge at the Federal Court of Appeal because the government side realized the weakness of their case, and so they came back and asked for a settlement, which is part of the process, right? And so we've gone through that, and now his application has been sent for what's called redetermination, where a different officer is going to be going over it, and 80% of the times it ends up being a favorable decision, but even then, there's never a 100% guarantee. So the answer to the question is yes, that's an option, and that's something we provide support with.
All right. This could be, are there charges associated to that? Are you able to share, or it's private?
If there are charges, meaning our own fees, yeah, there are always going to be charges. The fees may vary depending on the specific file, and so that's something that we would want to have a conversation about, and my contacts are here, so that's something you can reach out at any time, and if I myself am not able to respond, somebody from my team would be able to respond.
Okay, perfect. Thank you very much.
Yes.
The next one is, do you have or do you work with existing companies looking for employees or needing the services such that the team here can work with you to have, the companies here can work with you to have employees go on the other end for?
That's a question we get asked all the time, and the answer is no. We don't, for a number of reasons. One of them is there would be some ethical concerns because we then would be, almost acting as recruiters as well, and it would create a conflict of interest for us. So that's not something we do. The employers we work with are employers who already have their own employees outside Canada that they need support with to transfer them to Canada. But we don't provide support with finding employers who are wanting to hire.
Yeah, thank you for the information. On behalf of Table 3, my name is Irene. I run a training institution, a college. Yes. So for this particular table, one of the questions is number one, you mentioned about the financial ability.
Yes.
And would be interested to know, are there some specifics about what kind of a statement are you looking at? Will you be looking for a 10-year statement? Are there like specifics in as far as the numbers are concerned?
Yes.
An amount or something like that?
There are specific amounts. Sorry, were you done?
I can ask all the questions and
no,
you respond?
one at a time.
Okay.
One at a time.
Okay.
I'm gonna. So the figures have changed recently. So normally, the proof of funds requirement varies depending on the nature of the program. Welcome. So somebody who is if you're sending a child, your kid to Canada, for instance, person is coming. That kid is coming alone. There's a proof of funds requirement that is upwards of $20,000. Not including school fee and so on. So that's kind of the first thing. You asked about the need to what exactly you will need to include, as proof that you have sufficient funds. One of the things you'll need to do is to show your bank statements for at least the last 6 months, right? Because as I indicated earlier, you don't want to have somebody, dumping funds into their account a day before you submit the application. That's not going to augur well. So that's one thing you have to do. If the bank statement can extend 6 months, then great. But at least the minimum we ask for is 6 months. And in some circumstances, you can have a sponsor. So a young person, for instance, who is wanting to come as an international student, obviously, that person would not have the means themselves, but their parents, it may have the means. And so the parent would be the sponsor. And so the supporting documentation would be that of the parent or of the sponsor, who might be another family member, which is something that happens quite often. But in those kinds of situations, there are certain things that would need to be done, that those statements would have to be notarized by a lawyer or something, there would have to be accompanying letters and so on. I hope that addresses your question.
Sure, thanks.
Okay.
So the next question is about the professions. Are there some specific professions that you would advise for someone interested to coming to Canada? And how are the wages like in regards to such?
All right. So you're pushing me into the non-legal realm. I can say, just based on the types of files that we see from those of our corporate clients who are transferring employees to Canada, the tech, inside of the tech space, that's always going to be a high demand space. Positions such as technical architects, technical leads, software engineers, AI, specialists and so on. So that broad area is always going to be a high demand area. The healthcare space is also going to be a high demand area, but that comes with caveats, right? If you're a registered nurse coming to Canada, for instance, that registered nurse will have to be licensed first in order to practice. So it varies, so those are some of the high demand areas. There's a lower level healthcare role that is also quite high demand, and it's that of what's called a personal support worker, PSW, right? So it's a job type that is, below that of a nurse. That's a high demand area as well, but it does not require licensing. But oftentimes it requires some kind of training as well. Yeah.
Okay, thank you for that. And I have a specific one, someone asking if they're intending to become a lawyer. Is Canada a place for them? Maybe you can combine that with this last one, the success rates for visas, especially if someone has been denied visa in other countries.
Yes.
Would they still, are there barriers related to that when they want to come to Canada?
Okay, I'll address that one first because it's a very specific legal question. So where one has a previous refusal, your chances of success are adversely impacted, meaning it impacts the likelihood of success afterwards. But it does not mean that you cannot successfully reapply. That's something that we've done on multiple occasions. You know, we've helped people who applied previously, were unsuccessful, and helped them to apply again successfully. But we've not had 100% success there, because there are some cases where the initial refusal may well have been justified. You know, for instance, when somebody is applying to come to Canada, especially temporarily, one of the requirements is that you need to show that you have some kind of ties to your home country. And by ties, we mean financial ties, family ties, and so on, because the Canadian immigration officer will want to know that when you come to Canada, you will have good reason to want to come back to Kenya. And so if you submitted an application that did not show that you have sufficient ties in Kenya, then your chances of refusal are going to be higher. Right? So yes, you are able to successfully apply for a permit after having gotten an initial refusal, but to be candid, your chances are going to be lowered, and therefore what we say to clients is that in those circumstances, you want to go above and beyond in your new application. You want to proactively include information that you might not otherwise have included in an attempt to overcome, you know, any shortfalls that the application may have. All right, and then to the last question about becoming a lawyer in Canada, it absolutely, my first response whenever I'm asked that question is that it is absolutely possible. You know, I went to law school after having had another career. So it's absolutely possible. Is it going to be easy? No, but it's possible. If that person is already a practicing lawyer in Kenya, then they're going to be able to transition by going through a series of examinations. And that, you know, that can be particularly challenging and frustrating for many people. So much so that some people end up not practicing at all. You know, and that's one of the, you know, the dark side of immigration, dark sides. There's some people who are certified, licensed lawyers, doctors in their home countries who just, the process of transitioning is just so cumbersome that some people just give up on that and end up doing something else. You know, something less enjoyable, presumably, but that happens. But to your question, it absolutely is feasible and possible for one to do that. And, you know, I mean, I have a colleague who's practicing in Canada who was a practicing lawyer here in Kenya, and he went through the process, and now he's practicing successfully there. So it absolutely is possible. Yes, next table. Yes, this side. Yes. Oh.
Oh, okay. I have the mic here. Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Sure, no problem.
Yes. On behalf of this table, the first question is the comment you made on the value of the net worthiness that you need to have as a company for you to be given a visa to come to Canada as an investor. You mentioned of 500,000. I hope I got you wrong.
Yeah.
I got you right.
Correct.
And if that's the case, how do they go about determining your net worth? Is it a question of like a balance sheet? Is it your bank statement?
Yes.
And what is it? And then if you will be required, probably if you have some assets in Kenya, some investments, could they require you to liquidate and move with the funds to Canada? That's the first question. Maybe you answer, and then we go to the next one.
Yes, because that's a substantial question. So a good question. So this is related to individuals, not companies. So individuals who are high net worth individuals who may be involved in business locally in Kenya, who want to come to Canada with their family by establishing a Canadian business. That's who this program is targeting, right? As opposed to an established business per se. So this is for individuals who have high net worth. Now, the way their net worth is assessed is by using third-party accounting firms. So the government has designated third-party companies this assessment. You know, Ernst & Young, for instance, EY would be one. PwC, you have PwC here. You know, those are the companies that are used to do this assessment of your net worth.
Okay,
Yeah.
if I got you right, if like I have shares in company X, I mean, as an individual, I have shares.
Yes.
So my net worthness in that company will stick to that assessment of what is my worth.
Yes. Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, so I think that will be sorted out by the third-party assessors, as you've said it.
Right, but ultimately it's an assessment of, you know, all of your assets,
Okay.
you know, minus all of your liabilities. That's ultimately what it comes down to.
Okay. Now then, the next question is, we've had cases where maybe some of the members here or someone they know has applied for a visitor's visa to Canada.
Yes.
And it has like taken forever for them to communicate.
Yes.
Every time you write an email, they tell them, you know, wait, we are still assessing your documents.
Okay.
It goes like for a year also. Is that something normal which you've had before, or is it an area where you probably can come in and offer your service and see how you can assist such a case?
Yeah, that's a common concern. And it depends on the perspective from which you're asking it. If you're somebody who, you know, provides visa application services to individuals, you know, the response may be different because, you know, your access may be different. If you're an individual who's done it yourself, then, you know, what happens is that the government, Canada's immigration system has different processing times for applications coming from different countries. And that is dictated more often than not by a number of factors. One of them has the file volume, right? So if the country from which you're applying, if there are many applicants, then the embassy there may be overwhelmed or may have a number of applications. And therefore, that oftentimes is one of the reasons why there's a delay. Sometimes there's no explanation for the delay. You know, sometimes they just take forever, and we have to keep, you know, agitating and reaching out through the different channels in an attempt to get a response. You know, we've seen clients who've come to us who've filed applications, and after 2 years they've heard nothing. Right? And then we have to assess, and we say, okay, do you withdraw that application and submit a new one? You know, or do we reach out to the IRCC and demand that they process your application? And it all depends, but ultimately, you know, it is not uncommon for one to not hear back from the immigration authorities after an extended period of time. Okay, all right.
Okay, one more. Okay, it's just for this table.
Yes, and then we'll move to this table.
Yeah, it's not like it's for me. It's just from this table.
No, that's right, man.
So
Go ahead.
The question is on the issue of age. The issue of age. Yeah, you about from 22 to 33 and maybe to 50, whatever.
Yes.
So is there an age limit beyond which one cannot really think of even coming to Canada because you say, oh, I'm too old, now I cannot apply?
No, you want to get me in trouble. You want me to say after this age you can't come to Canada, and then I'd be in big trouble. No, that only applies where one is trying to apply for permanent residency. Right? If you're trying to apply for permanent residency while you're here, directly from here, then the program, the selection system they have, favors people who are younger and more highly educated, who are better at English or French, and so on. But, you know, if you're coming to study, there's no age limit. I mean, that would be discriminatory. So no, there's no age limit. It's just that if you're applying to come as a permanent resident, then, you know, the younger persons are going to be more favored by that system. And I mean, obviously, if you're planning to come, you know, as an international student as well, the officer who is assessing your application is going to pay more attention to your application if you're an older person wanting to come to Canada to study, right? The officer is then going to ask more questions as to what your motives are. Are you really coming because you have a genuine interest to study, or are you merely wanting to come and never go back? So those are some of the factors that would have to be taken into consideration. Yes? Okay. This table? Okay, that table, no problem.
Good morning, everyone.
Hi, morning.
My name is Lilian, and I would like to ask a question about the visit visa, because I think
Sure.
you've mentioned everything else apart from the visit visa.
Okay.
So I'm trying to think, because it seems like it's so hard to come to Canada if you're not financially stable, if you don't have the papers to go to Canada, especially the education part.
Okay.
So assuming I get a visit visa,
Yeah.
is it possible for me to come and get a job once I'm in Canada, or is it a must for someone to come to Canada specifically for education or investment? There's no leeway for visit, because some people can manage to come to visit Canada, then within the stipulated time for visit, is it possible to get a leeway for a work permit? How hard is it to get a work permit on a visit visa?
Okay.
And as the last one, assuming I come to Canada and within the visit, meet a man and he marry me, how soon is it to get
Yeah. Okay. So do you want us to address? Check. Okay. Do you want us to address the meeting a man part first, or? Okay. All right. So when you're issued a visitor visa, that visa is issued so that you can come to Canada as a tourist. You're coming to visit temporarily. You're not going to be authorized to work, right? So if upon being issued a visitor visa, you arrive in Canada and you begin working, then you'll be putting yourself in some serious issues, because you'd have been in breach of the regulations, and it would impact your chances of remaining in Canada and so on. So right off the bat, a visitor's visa is for visiting temporarily. And not only that, typically when you arrive in Canada on a visitor's visa, the officer is going to may stamp your passport and write a date there. That's going to be less than 6 months. If that's the case, then you would be expected to depart Canada no later than the date that's indicated there. If no date is indicated at all, then it means that you have 6 months within which to remain there, but as a visitor. It is going to be a challenge for you to transition from being a visitor to a worker, because one of the rules says that in order to apply for a work permit, you need to apply from outside of Canada, right? So what some people do, they come as visitors, they seek out job opportunities, they form relationships with employers, then they go back home and have the application filed while they're home. All right, so that's going to be the recommended route. Mind you, there are persons who've come, they've applied to extend their stay as a visitor, which is an option. When the 6-month marker comes, you decide, you know what, I found this guy, and I want to remain here longer. So you extend your stay, and some people are able to remain longer. But generally speaking, the general rule is that you're not able to apply for a work permit from inside Canada once you've come to Canada as a visitor. All right? Yeah. Okay. This table.
Morning.
Okay.
Morning, everyone.
We're getting to you. Yes. Hello. Morning.
Yeah. My name is Mbogo from Mombasa.
Nice.
And my question...
Mombasa is beautiful, by the way. We were there just the other day. Love it.
I think I'm the person who has traveled far.
Oh, you traveled from Mombasa for this event?
For this event, yeah.
Oh, wow. Yeah, good to have you.
It's okay. Now, and a pleasure to meet Mr. Mwenda. We used to work with him. Now, my question is about the caregivers pilot program.
Okay.
Earlier in June, the Minister for Immigration, Mark Miller, announced that they are going to give caregivers permanent residency on arrival. But the program has not started. I don't know if you have any information on when it's going to start and how it's going to be.
It probably will never start. So, you know, Canada is kind of going through, so there's an election due in the next couple of years, okay? And like any other country, you know, the leaders kind of make their decisions based on what they're picking up on the ground. One of the challenges that, you know, some Canadians have, you know, currently, which is what led to the changes to the international student program that I referenced earlier, is that, you know, with high inflation and, you know, lower employment records and so on, there's a bit of discontent. And so the government has been rolling back some of the promised immigration programs, right? So the administration that is in now had announced and had actually implemented the issuance of just over 1 million permanent residency over a 4-year period. But they were issuing permanent residency at record levels, right? Because, you know, Canada's population isn't naturally growing. You know, we're not having enough babies. That's what it means. And so to address that challenge, Canada has resorted to, you know, bringing in immigrants. However, there's been a rollback of that. And so some programs are likely going to be affected more than others. So like the International Student Program, for instance, that has already been affected. Something like the Live-In Caregiver Program, you know, those are always kind of peripheral programs to begin with. And so any announcement that would have been made about it in recent times, you know, implementation will likely take some time or not happen. But I can't speak, you know, definitively on it because ultimately it's a government that decides whether or not they're going to be implementing these programs. But I can kind of read the general mood, you know, see what changes are being made to what aspects of the immigration program and make some deductions from that. So that's the best response I can give. Okay. And thanks for coming from all the way from Mombasa again. Yes.
Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
My name is Jane. I have a few questions here.
Okay.
The first one is, what is the process of setting a company in Canada while you're here in Kenya?
Okay.
The second one is, how can we identify genuine agents who claim they have job opportunities or be in contact with employer in Canada?
Okay, let's take them one at a time.
All right.
So let's go with the first one. How many questions do you have?
Just 4.
Okay. All right. So the first one, remind me, what's the first one?
What is the process of setting a company in Canada while in Kenya?
Yeah, that one is a complex one. We would need a lot of time to go through that. And there's some aspects of that would have to be addressed by a business lawyer. You know, some of our clients who've come and who've set up in Canada, what they do is they use what's called a corporate lawyer. I don't know if the roles are specialized here. It's the same, right? So, you know, so I would use a corporate lawyer to help, you know, my client get their company established in Canada. And there's a whole list of things that are involved. You know, there are going to be questions about what province is going to be best because you have to be licensed in a province, which is separate from the federal requirements and so on. So that is not something I'd be able to address now. But you know, I'd be happy to if that is something that you're seriously interested in. We can talk at some point. You have the contacts there so that would be my response to that specific question. Question 2 was,
how can we identify genuine agents who claim they have job opportunities and in contact with employer in Canada?
that one I cannot respond, I cannot answer either. What I can do, though, is to tell you if you have concerns about the genuineness of your immigration lawyer or your immigration provider, that can be verified online. So every lawyer, for instance, in Canada must be licensed, and depending on the province in which you're practicing, that province will have a body, a regulatory body. So in Ontario, where we are, it's the Law Society of Ontario. So you go on that website and you see lawyer directory, you type the lawyer's name in, and you see that information is there. If they don't show up, then, you know, they're not licensed in that province. And the same applies for the people who are called immigration consultants. They have their own regulatory body. As far as, you know, employers or people who say their employers are concerned, you know, it's like the Wild West out there. I wouldn't really be able to say.
Okay, our third and fourth question.
Yes.
There are many people going to Canada and they work in factories and in farms.
Yes.
How do they have proof of funds?
Yes, very good question. So those programs, they're called farm worker programs. And those programs happen from a government to government, at a government to government level. So, you know, the Canadian government would have certain, you know, agreements with companies like Mexico and Caribbean countries, including Jamaica and so on, whereby those countries agree to send a certain number of farm workers to Canada, and those workers would be exempt from the proof of fund requirement. You know, they may be exempt from other requirements as well. But, you know, the average person would not be able to just go ahead and apply to be a farm worker. It usually happens because there's some kind of an agreement between the Canadian government and the country from which the workers are coming.
Okay, thank you. The last one is, if someone has done an application,
yes,
then got a procedural fairness letter,
yes,
and then later a 5-year ban, can this be challenged?
It can be challenged, but is there a Swahili word for wahala? No? Yeah, so wahala means trouble, no? Problems in West Africa, does it? Right? Yes, okay. So that person would have a lot of wahala. If you're issued, so a procedural fairness letter is a letter that's issued by the, and I'm aware of the time, so I want to go through quickly so the other speakers can come. A procedural fairness letter is issued by the immigration authorities when they are contemplating refusing an application and potentially barring somebody from Canada. Procedural fairness letter is going to be is a requirement because, you know, in the past, an immigration officer would just refuse an application and not provide reasons. But then there was a case that went to the federal court where, you know, it was challenged, and the federal court, the Court of Appeal rather, determined that an officer cannot refuse an application without first giving the person who's being refused the reasons for the refusal, and also giving them an opportunity to answer, you know, whatever questions are related to the application before the refusal happens. So that's when a procedural fairness letter is issued. Once that is issued, the applicant has usually a prescribed period of time, maybe 30 days, maybe 5 days, to provide an answer, failing which the application is refused and potentially that person may be barred. Now, where somebody is barred for 5 years, it tells me that that person was found to have misrepresented. A misrepresentation is when you either are found to have provided inaccurate or misleading information that affected the application in question, or where you withheld what's called material information. You withheld information, if it were made known, would have impacted the decision made on the application. So in those cases, if there's a finding of misrepresentation, then the result is going to be a 5-year bar. Now, it's going to be difficult but not impossible to overcome a 5-year bar. Right? A 5-year bar means you're barred from applying to Canada for at least 5 years, And then after those 5 years pass, you may apply again, but that bar remains on your file. So every immigration officer who's going to be ever assessing any new application from you will see that you had been found to have misrepresented in the past, and so on. So my point is that it's going to be difficult, but it's something that can be challenged. Very few of those types of findings are successfully challenged. They can be challenged, but it's going to be difficult. Yes? Okay. Yes.
Hello, everyone. My name is Jan Mwenda. I'm a student at Light Academy.
Welcome.
And on behalf of the students, my question was, having finished KCSE,
yes,
and a variable factor is just having a good grade, like for example a B+, or in another factor of being a top student, maybe even top 10 in the country, looking to pursue either something like medicine or law, or also on the flip side, looking to have maybe some athletic endeavors like sports, like basketball, football, whatever. How would a scholarship work? And would you, if you're having like maybe your mom, your dad, just a family member there, will it also affect your chances of going there? And just how will it work in general?
Very good question, actually. So I'll address the easy part of the question first, which is your question about scholarships. It is going to be significantly more difficult for an international student to get a substantial scholarship, right? Because Canada's international student program is designed to help bolster, support, finance the post-secondary institutions. So an international student pays upwards of 3 times the tuition that a Canadian pays, right? And any scholarships are usually going to be directed at Canadian students, be they permanent residents or citizens. International students may get scholarships, but those are not going to be as significant as the scholarship that a Canadian would get. Sorry. The other question, so the other aspect of your question was, it slipped me.
The other aspect was for what you're going to do exactly. If you're going to do something like law or medicine, or something on the flip side like sports, like basketball or football, and in both cases you're like top of the top, and you're just looking for the scholarship.
Yeah, no, other than the scholarship, the other aspect of the question.
The other aspect was if you have someone there already.
Yes, if you have family, ties, if you have ties in Canada.
Yes.
So that can be a double-edged sword. Having somebody in Canada can be very helpful because they could be, especially if they have the financial means, they could be the sponsor who can help you prove that you have enough funds. If you don't have, if you or your parents aren't able to show bank statements, that you have the required minimum proof of funds. So sometimes, many people rely on the family members they have in the US or Canada to provide bank statements and to confirm that they are going to be supporting you while you're there. So that actually can be a big plus. On the flip side, it's sometimes, depending on the immigration officer, depending on how your application is put together, on the flip side, an officer could argue that they are not satisfied that if they were to allow you into Canada, that you would return to Kenya because you have what they describe as family ties in Canada, right? And that can be difficult to overcome because if you have family in Canada, you have family in Canada. Like, what can you do about that? So it can be a double-edged sword. What we try to do is we try to be proactive. We don't leave it unaddressed, but we state that the applicant has family members in Canada. They are relying on the family member to provide proof of fund support. However, the applicant has significant ties to Kenya. His actual parents are there. He has and ties. So that's how we'd frame the argument. But the bottom line is that more often than not, it is an advantage to have somebody who is, and somebody who has the means to show that they have the proof of fund support, but do bear in mind that there's also the risk of an officer saying that your family ties in Canada are too strong and will therefore prevent you from wanting to come back to Kenya.
Mm-hmm. And for the last part of the question is, if you're already there, if you got the scholarship, for example, the sports scholarship, and you suffered a very bad injury, that of course will stop you from performing, or just for the purpose that they brought you to Canada for, what's going to happen from there? Are they going to send you back, or how's it going to work?
That's tough. So many provinces, students, international students are able to get health benefits. You know, Canada's healthcare system is publicly funded, and they're funded at the provincial level. So the rules around, you know, access to healthcare for international students vary from province to province. But generally speaking, international students do have access to treatment while they're in Canada. So, you know, presumably, if one were to become injured, at least one would have access to health care and so on. You would not lose your study permit. If you were, you know, fortunate enough to secure a scholarship, then that is not, you know, that is something that you'd have to have a conversation with the providers of the scholarship about. But in terms of healthcare, there would be some options available to an international student who requires healthcare while they're there. And in terms of your study permit, there would be nothing, so long as you're able to continue your studies, there wouldn't be anything that would, you know, negatively affect your study permit. Yeah? Good questions, thank you. Okay, so I believe we've addressed all questions, and I believe that the other speakers are here as well. So on that note, I'm going to wrap it up. Thank you for all of your very great questions. And you are going to be able to reach out to us there. If I'm not able to respond, somebody from my team will as well. So thank you for being hospitable, and thank you for your great questions. Do enjoy the rest of the program.
Yes, thank you. I think we will give him a Kenyan name. So suggestion will come from the floor. Okay. You deserve a Kenyan name. Thank you so much for all those explanations and even the questions. And you can see these are better arrangements going like this. Now, if you have any questions about, you know, immigration, you know, sometimes it may not is to explain the Kenyan part, but no, the Canadian part, but there is also the Kenyan part. So I'll invite just briefly Stephen Kihonge, CEO of My Choice Travel and Immigration Consultant in Kenya. Mr. Kihonge has been in travel industry and he even at one point traveled abroad to go and study what they require there so that he can come and do it here. Then he will explain how he will work with Francis to help those interested in the Canadian experience, and he will also explain how his company prepares Kenyans for training for jobs abroad. Just very briefly so that we can finish that session. Then now we go to the investment side. Thank you.
So thank you so much, Sami. Good afternoon. So just like he said, my name is Stephen Kihonge, and the CEO of My Choice Travel Consultants. We are located at Steamer Plaza, and I've been in the travel industry for quite some time. But I want to make it clear that I'm a travel consultant, not a travel agency. We don't guarantee for jobs. Ours is just to offer services on how you can apply for visitors' visas to various countries. So we are able to guide on how you can do the application, maybe on the documents that are required to make those applications for visitors. That is basically what we do. So I was here to learn what Francis offers. So maybe there's a possibility of us working together, but I would want to make it clear that as we offer visa application services for several countries, including Canada. I connected with my friend Lucy when I was in Canada last year in November. And that is how we got to know each other, and we've been working together. So basically, that is what I do. I'm also a car dealer, and we have family business in Naivasha. So basically, we are located at Steamer Plaza, and those are the services that we offer. I didn't want to take much of the time because I had yielded my time for Francis to be able to explain what he has to offer for us. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you. And Kihonge will be available during the other session, the panel. I think Lucy has put up a very good thing to be able to bring in Donovan here. We let people travel. You know, the other day, me and my wife decided we have enough time. So we went and said, let's explore America and explore the Caribbean also and see how it is. We went to America and looked at the farms that are available for leasing. What's wrong with it? There's nothing wrong. If you've done everything that you need to do, why not go there? We even found some people who are employed milking cows there, but they earn dollars. So it doesn't matter. In fact, I gave myself, okay, I don't have the energy for milking, but it is possible to go make money out there and bring it back. And that is exactly the way we have structured this. It's possible to take it, go to Canada, make the money, and stay there. But also, it's also possible that you decide, no, I want to invest back in Kenya. So what do you do? Where do you go? And we started by saying, when money is in your pocket, you are a different person. You're not the same. You're different. Your behavior is also different. I've observed this because I've been in the bank. I'm still in the board of one of the banks here. I've observed a lot of people, when they have money, even their gates, when you see them coming, you know how they behave. And it's a human thing. So when you make money out there also, where do you invest? Where do you take it to? What really is your store? And we are going to listen to two stories. One from Latham, who is the CEO of Unity Homes. And another one from Wenda Turanida, who went out there and came back. Yeah, and invested here. What is it that they saw and invested? The reason why Unity Homes and Latham is, why did he come to Kenya? Because he also fell in love with Kenya from the stories that I hear. So what is behind those big things? Because what is behind your movement to go out there? And by the way, there is no age limit. So while the Gen Z is going to look to go and study medicine and study all other things and sports and things like those, others would also want to go make money or use their time that is available there. So I'll call upon the CEO of Unity Homes, John Latham. John Latham is Executive Director of Unity Homes Limited, which is based at Tatu City in Kiambu County. Mr. Latham is originally from UK and is now a successful Kenyan real estate developer here in Kenya. He will be speaking about opportunities that exist in Kenya and how he has been building affordable homes for everyone to purchase at the Tatu City. He will also share why he chose Kenya, why for investment, and not where he was, and how also he will entice the international investors to come in and benefit from what you could even be having, because there could be opportunities that you could also be having. So maybe that is an opportunity. So we welcome John Latham, the CEO of Unity Homes.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. He's Kenyan, so we greet.
We go like this. Thank you very much. So hearing Donovan's questions, actually, the questions he's getting asked, it's actually quite, some of those things relate to my own experience. I first came to Kenya in 2006 on a tourist visa. And a bit like you were discussing, I met some people, I made friends, but I also saw some people doing business, and I had some discussions with them. I went back and finished my final year in university, and then I sort of cold called for a job here in Kenya, and I didn't get a job here in Kenya. They sent me to South Sudan, which I can assure you is not as good. But I like a challenge, and I went out to South Sudan and worked for, it was a Kenyan firm that was building roads in South Sudan shortly after the peace agreement in 2008. And from there, I worked there for 2 years, and then I came back to Kenya. And I really came to Kenya and Africa more generally for the adventure. But here I am 20 years later, and I've really stayed here for the people and the society. When people ask me why did I invest in Kenya, it doesn't really work like that. I live here and I love living here, so I work here. Like I'm sure many people in the room are in the same situation, yeah. And there are major advantages to Kenya. Having seen many countries across sub-Saharan Africa, Kenya has tremendous human resource. We really are blessed with good educational system, or at least a reasonably well developed. Is getting better every year, and stability. We've had stability for decades, which many other countries haven't. And the more I travel, the more I see other countries, the more I love Kenya more. And I 2 years ago became a Kenyan citizen. And so I met a man just like Donovan, walked me through all that process. And here I am today. I have a Kenyan family. So a lot of people looking to go the other way. It also works this way, I think, in almost exactly the same way. Yeah, emerging markets have different challenges. You have to be much more of a jack of all trades here. I've had to learn almost every little element of my business. Whereas if I go and look at housing development in the UK, that same business has been broken down into maybe 30 or 40 separate professional businesses. Here, our business is vertically integrated to do all of that. So that tells you a little bit about my journey. Let me talk to you a little bit about Unity Homes, which is, I guess, what I think is the background here. We founded the company in 2014. I'd been lucky to raise some capital with some people I'd done business with before. I find it's, if you prove yourself, raising capital is very much about can you prove reliable? Can you prove with a high level of integrity? So I spent those first sort of half a decade in Kenya developing that reputation. And then when I started the business, I raised a modest amount of capital. And our first project was in Eldoret. I don't know if anybody has been to Unity Gardens in Eldoret on the way to the airport. Yes, over here. Did you enjoy? And that was our first project. And that took about 5 years. Like anything when you're starting something new in life, it took us, there were ups and downs, there were things there were challenges. Eldoret is not the easiest place to develop houses, which I now know. And back in 2014, I thought that was a terribly good idea. But to give you an idea, that was a $1 billion shilling project. Yeah? One of the projects you see behind us here, Unity West, was our second project. We came to Nairobi in Tatu City. And that was maybe 2.5 billion shillings. than taking us 5 years, that took us 2.5 years. Yeah. And then our project Unity East, which is about 640 two-bedroom apartments, about double the size of Unity West. That's taken us about 3 years to build, and I think by the end of the year, we should be completing the sales on that. So that sort of gives you an idea of the trajectory of the business. And during that period, I'm very proud to say that we've gone from employing, in the early days, there were sort of 2 people in my front living room, to today we now employ 1,500 people. Thank you. And we've also gone Pan-African. So we're now in Nigeria, in Lagos, where we're building another one of these estates, a bit like Unity East. And that's going very well. Nigeria is a challenging market, but it's actually, I have a good story there so far. Fingers crossed. So I'd like to talk to you about our products. We've essentially got 3 products at the moment. We have, over here, we got Unity 1. This is a 1-bedroom, mainly investment, although some people are buying them also to live in. Investment product for young professionals and things like this. It's got access to a swimming pool, a gym, a clubhouse, and all the green areas that you have in Tartu City. And much the same you see here. This is Unity East. You can see this is a fairly up-to-date photo, but I think the last row is just being completed in the next 6 months now. Now these really are beautiful apartments. If anybody's would like to see them, Laban is here at the back of the room. If you just stand up, he will organize a visit for you. I'd recommend you come and see the apartments. They truly are beautiful. I live myself personally here. And I've always, since the beginning of starting the business, felt that it should be what I expect in life is what other people should expect. So I live there and I really enjoyed living there. And when things aren't right, I improve them. I think I've lived in 15 Unity homes now. So every time we move, I see a thing I haven't got right and I change that and I improve it. So it's a really well innovated product. A very important thing for people in the room here is the KMRC. Has anybody heard of KMRC? Yes, wonderful. What does KMRC stand for? Yes, exactly. So the Kenya Mortgage Refinance Company, what it is it's a company that's been set up with the help of the World Bank, right? To assist in providing cheap mortgages for the banking sector, right? And at the moment, if you were going to get a commercial loan from a bank today in Kenya, you would pay about 20%, yeah? Yeah, that's correct. Whereas if you go through the Kenya Mortgage Refinance thing, which is, for instance, our main partner is Absa Bank, but there's many banks that are also offering it, KCB, Stanbic, amongst others, yeah? You'll get a mortgage for 9%, yeah? And I can't say how life-changing that is, yeah? That's not 9% for the first year, the second year. That's fixed for basically up to 25 years, so as long as you want, yeah? Unless anybody wants longer than 25 years, which I don't think so. And I equate it. It's a bit like, so let's take Unity 1 here. I think they sell from about 5.7 million shillings, right? Now, if I told you that house was half price, yeah? I think guys would be biting my hand off. Yeah, I'd be wearing gloves. Now I can't do that, I'll be honest. But with the help of the World Bank, the finance is half price. Yeah, and it really is. When you talk about 9% finance, it's like a half price house. So I talked to Laban about that, and he'll walk you through that. But it really is an affordable mortgage. And it's a wonderful thing that's been put together. And I would suggest everybody finds out more about that. Yeah. Personally, within my family, I think we've now taken 5. I've gone to all my in-laws, everybody you can imagine, who I can find who can afford a mortgage, and I've walked them through it. There are sometimes financial no-brainers, and this is definitely one of them. So everybody have a look at that.
At ABSA 9% mortgage, is it available to non-Kenyans?
Okay, let me start with the second one first. No, it's not. I think if it was, I think we would have an absolute flood of people. This is, the World Bank has put this in. It is exclusively for Kenyans. So although it might be the immigration side, you might be on the wrong side of getting to Canada. We're looking after you here with cheap finance, which the Canadians can't have. Many people have asked me that question. Because it is, I think in Canada you've experienced low rate mortgages and how life-changing it can be when you do have cheap credit on a house. The second question, why? Yeah, let's talk about Unity 1. I guess Unity 1 and Unity East, very similar in terms of offering just different price points. So all sorts of people rent our houses. We aim for very high quality living standards, yeah, at affordable rents, right? Typically our occupancy runs at about 99%, right? There's about 1% at any one time, maybe 2%, which is just that monthly churn, yeah? As people move out, people move in, right? So that's very important in terms of when people are investing in our houses. But also the location. When we talk about Tartu City, Tartu City is an amazing location. Yeah. Essentially what they've done is some investors, some foreign investors, have bought about 2,000 acres in Kiambu, and they've put in place world-class infrastructure in terms of sewage, in terms of electricity, in terms of roads, in terms of security, yeah? But also controlling the planning permission, right? So that people aren't building, you build your nice structure here and somebody doesn't build something funny here, yeah? It's exactly like in Canada, I imagine. Everything is zoned and properly implemented. And that drives property prices up, yeah? And we've seen that we've been there since 2018, and we've seen consistently as Tartu City has delivered on their mission of providing a world-class city, yeah? That has driven rents up, yeah? Every year rents are going up at about 8% in Tartu City for our houses, yeah? And it's meant occupancies are very strong, yeah? And having now lived in Tartu City, I think I'd find it very hard to live in many of the similarly priced suburbs of Nairobi, yeah? But also Tartu City's, it's a special economic zone, right? And with that special economic zone status, it's bringing a lot of businesses in. Yeah, so we've got over 80 businesses, both international and Kenyan, have now been attracted to Tartu City, which brings investment, which brings jobs. Yeah. So yeah, everybody lives in our houses. We've got Wageni from abroad. We've got all the businesses in Tartu City. Also, people commuting into town. Yeah. It's lovely to live there. There's a lot of green space. It's very secure. I'll go for a walk with my 2-year-old daughter at 9 o'clock in the evening without flinching, and it doesn't even cross my mind that might be a difficult thing to do. Yeah. Whereas there's very few suburbs in Nairobi, even Runda. Would you walk around Runda at 9 o'clock with a 2-year-old? Maybe. I don't live in Runda, so I don't know that answer, but I'd definitely be thinking twice. Whereas in Tartu City, I don't need to think twice. Yeah. So that maybe answers that question. Is that, yeah?
Thank you, John. You can see there are a lot of opportunities that are there, and I think your question will be answered. We'll just do briefly. There are some times when young people want to go to America, and they insist in going. Sometimes you don't know whether to allow them or not. So we have one example. A young person at that time insisted in going to America, and whether he came back. So those of you who have Gen Zs and Gen Alpha who want to go to America, let them go. They'll come back. Because we have an example here Mwenda Thuranira is the CEO of MySpace Properties Kenya, entrepreneur, real estate investor. He's the host of Mindspace. Mr. Thuranira was formerly based in Florida, USA, and he's a successful where he specialized in commercial real estate and builds malls like My Town Mall in Karen. I think most of you could have seen that huge thing there. He's also in Mombasa. He will share opportunities available in Kenya and the Canadians and how you can take advantage of. And also, why did he come back? He went there as a young man and he came back. Why? Yeah, that's the land of opportunity. Because we got young people here, we are wondering, will they go and come back? Yeah. Mwenda Thuranira.
Thank you so much. Good morning, everybody. I'm Jamboni. My name is Mwenda Thuranira, the CEO of MySpace Properties, founder and developer of My Town Malls, and I'm glad to be here today, seeing all my old-time friends here. Very happy. Karibuni, my fellow real estate player. We're glad to have you here. And of course, Lucy Jeffrey for organizing this, putting it together. I really appreciate it. So, who's Mwenda Thuranira? So, Mwenda Thuranira is born and raised in Meru, went to Utalii College, got a job at Air France. Air France closed down, went to America to do piloting. Then, after doing it for a while, for almost 6 months training, after qualifying for my PPL, private piloting license, I realized this is not my thing. And all through my passion has been in real estate. Anything real estate, I'm always there. Any article, any show, like often I attended shows by Kina Robert Kiyosaki, Donald Trump, and so many real estate players. And it's amazing. It's like music to my ears. Whenever you talk real estate, it's something I really like. So, especially people living outside in the diaspora, real estate is the best avenue for your investment because of 4 things. Number 1, job creation. You know, in Kenya, especially the Gen Zs, they are crying of jobs, correct? I'm sure each and everyone on this room has somebody who's jobless. Ni kweli? Ama kuna ule kila mtu akona kazi. So, real estate provides that opportunity. Since you find people working in any project, no matter how small, each and every site has like 20, 100 to 1,000 people every day. And this is what we are talking about, job creation back at home. Number 2, high returns. If you're doing real estate, let's say in Canada, I'm sure for somebody to get up even to 15% return is hard. That's true? Kenya being a developing country, I mean, to get 30% return is almost obvious. And right now, with affordable mortgages, it makes a lot of sense. So, return on investment, of course, is good in Kenya. And any investor, I'm sure people invest so that they can make money. Sindio? Or let's say anybody who invests for fun. I know people invest for 3 things. Like whenever I meet clients, especially the elderly ones, I give them the 3 options. For 1, you can invest return on investment. Number 2, return on equity, the money you invested. Number 3, return on ego. Have you heard that before? There's somebody who owns a big building with their name on it. If it makes money or not, they don't care. So, I mean, that's the least favorite. Of course, entrepreneurship, spurring entrepreneurship in Kenya. You see now with the job creation, there will be welders, there will be people selling windows, there are people cleaning companies, security companies. The entrepreneurship, it's spurred in real estate. And when you talk about real estate, anything, any business, apart from IT, start with real estate. Someone will need an office, someone will need to live somewhere by the end of the day. So, real estate is critical for any business. That's the foundation, that's where it starts. And then emerging markets. Of course, Kenya is an emerging market, and that is, Africa is an emerging market. And this where there is growth. Like you have heard Donovan say, in Canada, people don't want children, correct? Here in Kenya, we are popping them every day. And like, for example, I've not seen any Somalia. With Somalis, if you don't have 11 kids, you can't speak in the Council of Elders. You're banned. So there's a big opportunity. It's a growing economy. It's a developing country. So it's very important we have more development. Actually, according to the research, by the year 2050, 50% of Kenyans will be living in urban areas. So somebody thinking there are no opportunities in real estate, imagine, let's say Kenya has a population of 60 million. 30 million of those will be living in urban areas. Why? Because people are educated now. I'm sure those who come from the village like me, like right now, you want to set up a business or something for your cousins to do back at home. If you give them a djembe, they'll not touch it, right? Right now, they're educated. They want either boda or la pawaso to do business. So still, there's a big opportunity in real estate going forward. Diversification, of course, to diversify your investment. If you have invested elsewhere, it's good to invest in real estate, especially in Kenya. Like when I lived in America, all the income I was making, I used to send it back at home and buy some plots, buy some properties, buy some land. Since when somebody is in diaspora, don't be lied to. That you start a kiosk, you buy a matatu, you start some M-Pesa business. Honestly, we lie to you. So we know ourselves Kenyans. Kuna mtu atakuweza kurania biashara. Nobody will babysit your business. The business you have to grow it yourself. And for real estate is where you get passive income, where, land is not going anywhere. As long as you check on it, you make sure it's secure, and when doing it, contact professionals. Not just meet with brokers online or in the street and you're like, this is a good real estate guy. Do the due diligence, check the records, and use the right procedures when it comes to doing valuation, doing survey work, beacon report, especially when buying land. Since sometimes you buy land, like for example, I had a case in Mombasa where I bought a very prime land right on the road since I envisioned to do a commercial development in future. So I went, I was shown the land, very beautiful, right what I was looking for. They have the title deeds, they have everything. I did all the checks, I did a search, I did everything. One thing I did not do is to get a survey report. So finally, almost 3 years down the road, I'm finding some developments happening in that land. So I go to ask a guy, who is doing this? This is my land. So by the end of the day, they had their document, I had my document, but my land was not this one, was farther inside, away from the road, from the project I wanted to do, and it was full of squatters. That was in Mombasa, Bamburi. So it never happened. So seriously, even me who is a player in the industry, I can be duped. So it's very important to have all the checks, make sure you're buying the right thing. And you're buying whatever the thing on the paper is what's on the ground. Very important. And sometimes when you're doing due diligence, even if you go to the land itself, if you talk to the guys around, like they say the drunkards in the corner, they know all the truth, they know everything. They'll tell you what's happening. So don't just wait in the office or in your house and think somebody will do magic for you. Sometimes you have to do it for yourself. Finally, it's about personal fulfillment. When you do something for your home country, of course, as they say in Kenya, if you don't own a piece of land or property, you're not Kenyan. You have to own a piece of it for you to be fully Kenyan. Sindio? So it's important to own something, and especially in your country. Like in America, I remember, of course, we started all the way, like from agent to developer to master developer. I mean, we were doing many big projects, but I was also feeling like now I'm doing this is 1 year, and this is a foreign country. By the end of the day, I'll not live here, I'll go back home. And my people back at home, they need that investment dearly. It's needed here more than even it's needed. So with all my knowledge, with all the experience I had, I thought now I come back at home and put in the experience here to develop my country, to uplift my people. So that tunaweza fanya hivyo. So ukienda huko, Mwenda, my namesake, when you go there, please make sure you invest back at home. As I told you, whenever I had, since the good thing, like in America, the credit works well. You can get financing easily, more than you can get here. In fact, they say in Kenya, when they prove you don't need the money is when they lend you the money. When it stops raining is when they give you the umbrella. I mean, it's very difficult. But for there, it was easy to get financing. So I operated my business on credit, but anytime I had cash, always invested it back at home. And of course, why did I choose real estate? For me, number one is passion. You'd see passion is what stays when the resources die out. Passion is what drives you to be able to go forward. Since if you're not passionate about it, you'll be frustrated. For example, if you're starting off as an agent, you might go for a year without selling anything. Correct? But when they start coming in, you'll get so many deals that they'll pay off for the lost time. So it's important to be passionate about real estate. Like me, I did piloting, but that was not in me. I did so many other jobs which didn't make sense to me. But for me, real estate is my thing. Even if you call me in the middle of the night at any time, I'm ready to talk matters real estate. Finally, talk about my town malls. How many have seen my town in Karen on Langata Road? Good, thank you. For those who have not seen, please PT up on Langata Road, opposite Karen Hospital. There is where we have our pilot project for my town, which we are doing multiple developments in different areas. On this particular project, we are on a journey of connecting retailers and the community. Basically, what we are doing is modernized kiosk. If you come, you see what we have done there, and we want to do it all over the country. Actually, our minimum would be 20, and we want to go up to 50, inshallah, God willing. So, of course, to raise the funds, to get the partners to work with on this one, it was not a walk in the park. Personally, I was looking for funding for 5 years for this particular project. I went to all the banks in this country. Finally, I went even to NSE, Nairobi Stock Exchange, a book program, trying to look for investors, for funding, to be able to do it, but it never happened. Good thing, it happened finally. I went to a friend of mine, Mr. Anil Samani, who I told him I needed a connection, somebody will give me money to do this project. So he looked at me and told me, how much money are you looking for? I told him 20 billion. This guy removed his glasses, stood up and told me, Allah, Kijana, where do you want to take 20 billion? What do you want to do with it? So I had to explain to myself about what the idea was, what it was. And of course, owing to my experience, I've been a space provider for Naivas Supermarket for the last 11 years. So I have experience when it comes to malls, anything to do with shopping center, commercial real estate, we have in-depth experience. Of course, having represented Naivas in almost 60 places, trust me, I know everything to do with malls, but I'm still learning though. And with that, of course, we agreed, and we started with our pilot project in Karen. And those organizers of this event, thank you for coming to this hotel, since my partner owns this hotel, AMS Properties. Thank you for supporting my partner. I appreciate you. Tunajua partner ni kama bibi. Mpaka msapotiane muinuane. Si ndio? Very important. I'm grateful. So of course, at MySpace Properties, anything to do with real estate, you can come to us. Please, if you have not visited my town mall, Karen, come see what we have to offer. And anything matters real estate, talk to MySpace Properties. I'll share my contact with you, and we'll get to know each other more and do more business. Now, be delighted to take your questions. Yes. Who has the mic?
Thank you. My name is Purity Kimodo. I sell cars on Kiabu Road. I run a car dealership called Urban Drive. I have been following you for a while in that space, Facebook. So now that you're talking about Naivas and MySpace Mall, as individuals here or ordinary business people, how do we plug in now that most likely we are not building supermarkets? How do we get to your space? We know how to buy unit homes. So how do we buy MySpace?
Thank you. That is a good question. So how do you buy MySpace? I'm right here. Give me the money. So, of course, in these mini-malls we are connecting between retailers and the community. And not that we house Naivas only. Naivas actually takes 30%, who is the anchor tenant. And then we have those other tenants who are set up chemists, who set up liquor store, who set up restaurant, a dentist, a hospital, a clinic, and all that. So for somebody doing business, of course for retail is somewhere where somebody wants to be seen. So we set up shops and we're involved in so many mini-malls around the country, from Kilimani, Lavington, Kisii, Meru, and other places. So in case you want to open a cosmetic shop, we are there for you. That's how we sort you out. And again, another thing, on MySpace Properties, we are a real estate company. We sell properties, we sell apartments, just like my friend John does. We sell apartments. Like there's one apartment we're involved in. It's called Sun Park in Syokimau, where we're selling 3-bedroom at 3 million, 2-bedroom for 8 million, and 1-bedroom for 6.5. It's ready to move in. Just come pay, and we're offering KMRC mortgages too. You can get with that, and they are ready to move in. So Karibu, Syokimau will share your contact. We'll share our contact with you. When you're ready, we'll take you there. And of course, there's something which John said, which I really like. You said you live in your development. That is very intimate. That is very good. Many of us in the development world, we don't want to live where we have developed or with our tenants. But for you, that's very intimate, and I'm sure you have a lot of experience going forward. Maybe I'll emulate that in the days to come. That's my take home for me. Any other question?
I've been told I look like a businessman before, so don't be surprised when you find me in real estate also. So I was asking about what you said concerning your passion when you studied for being a pilot and then you ended up finding out that's not what you wanted. Do you feel like if you just started from real estate from the beginning, maybe things will have panned out differently? And also, when doing real estate, what is the biggest setback you faced? What did you learn from it, and how did you overcome?
Thank you so much. My namesake Mwenda, and you're truly dressed like a businessman. That's good. Dressed to impress. That's very commendable. And about being passionate about something. Of course, passion drives so many things. But I'm not saying somebody who washes toilets, are they passionate about it? Huh? Do they like it? Sometimes it's just a job. Like for example, in my career, I did so many odd jobs in America. At that point, I was a dishwasher in America, in a seafood restaurant. Even up to today, I don't like fish because of that experience of washing dishes every day. But I had to do something to survive. It's just a job. So sometimes you just have to look at it that way. And your next question was, setback. Whoa. Of course, I've been in real estate for almost 20 years. Trust me, the ups and downs have been many. There have been failures, there have been trumps. Of course, there are some projects we envisioned, planned, and everything never took off, took all your time. There are some projects you started, be the financial tells you, you put your 20%, then I'll come with 80%. You put your 20%, and the other part never comes. So there are challenges, especially in the finance world, but challenges are what make us. I mean, it's a learning experience, and I believe all the experiences I've learned, that's what improves me on a daily basis. If you fail, don't beat yourself so much. I mean, it's never that serious by the end of the day. You just wake up and start all over again. I mean, it's a journey. It's not it's a marathon. It's not a 100-meter run. So you have to be ready to go up and down. But what thing I tell myself, if I try 10 things and I'm successful in between 6 and 7, I'm good. I don't have to be successful in everything. Sawa. Good. Yes, please.
Okay, thank you. My name is Kevin. My question is on, in this sector where you are, that's the real estate sector. It's one of the sectors, as you've already said, that it's one area where we can actually tackle the unemployment problem that we have in the country, and that's very true. However, in the recent past, we've had all these setbacks on the policies by the government, not really trying to encourage investors going that line, where, for example, the price of cement is going up and all that. So that calls probably for more innovation and the likes. So do you have some opportunities where the players in this industry who are probably tried something elsewhere can work in collaboration with you in having this product out there in the market? So do you involve consultants, for example? And if so, is there still an opportunity for others to come in?
Thank you. Good question, Kevin. Of course, in real estate, we can't work on everything. Like for us, when it comes to development, we deal with financing and maybe the market. Because, of course, you can't be a jack of all trades and be successful. You have to focus on one thing. And anything we do, for example, we need engineers, we need architects, we need plumbers. But in most of our main projects, we involve contractors with a competitive bidding, and the best one wins, and the one with the best track record. Of course, we're in it. And I didn't get, what's your profession?
Okay, my brother, it's like you read my mind. I think when you are starting this MySpace, I interacted with you a lot. I was very keen on matters real estate. I'm a civil engineer by training. I'm also a certified project manager. And definitely, this field you are in is one of the areas, probably in one way or another, you may find that I'm also participating.
Good.
Thank you.
Thank you. So you're my colleague in the industry. So let's catch up. Let's keep that conversation going. It's very important. We are always in need of professionals in all areas. Thank you. Last question. See, my time is up. Thank you so much for your time. Sawa sawa. Umetosheka. So thank you so much. Nice. Thank you for listening to me. And thank you, Lucy, for putting this together. We appreciate you. Asanteni.
Yeah, thank you so much. I think we've nearly come to an end. What we'll normally do is the last 10 minutes, we'll just have the speakers sit here on the panel. Yeah.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Nancy, and I really appreciate this forum. I consider it a high networking forum. Congratulations to the organizer, Lucy. Sammy, kindly organize for a representation of Lucy there by a lady as we continue.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
I wear many hats in life. I've seen people I met when I was doing banking. I've seen others I met when I was doing financial literacy trainings. But let me wear the hat of an institution I represent. I represent an institution called Green Hummingbird Foundation. I chose to volunteer my management expertise there in establishing and helping young ones in helping. I nurture young minds towards environmental conservation, and this institution called Green Hummingbird Foundation has one ambassador called Alice Wanjiro coming from Brookhouse Schools. And this afternoon, my question is directed towards John and Mwenda. We all know climate action is a great topic, and if we don't do something, we don't come together, all of us, and do something, then we will be causing trouble to the generations that will come after us. I would want to hear from the two, what initiatives or what provisions do you have in the developments you have done, both present and in case there is not, what are the futuristic plans on environmental conservation? Thank you.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Let me answer, and maybe John can add to that. My name is Kanana Ndegwa, the head of marketing at Unity Homes. So for Unity, we've incorporated environmental and social aspects in two aspects. One, I would say, is that we have currently a nursery where we grow seedlings from seeds to actually trees. All the trees and the greenery that is planted within our developments are actually grown from our nurseries at Unity Homes, transferred into our developments, and they are then nurtured into trees, into our environments. Secondly, we have through our OCF, which is our community foundation at Unity Homes, we have a Shamba Club. What happens in this Shamba Club? It's mostly for the senior citizens who come together. We give them a piece of land behind our developments where they plant their vegetables, like a kitchen garden. So everyone will get the equivalent to 2 to 3 parking spaces, and there people will plant their skuma wikis, their carrots, their cabbages, and as part of that, it engages the community together, and then there's also the greening aspect as well. Within now Tatu City as well, we have set aside a park, 35-acre park that's along the Tatu River that's actually gazetted, and no one can actually build anything there. So that's actually set aside for life, where we have set up a park. There's greenery there, there's a river, and now our residents are able to, and also Tatu residents are able to use that facility. So that's how we'll be able to incorporate that within Unity Homes.
Thank you. Of course, when it comes to environment, like in our model of business, we consider 3 things. The first, number 1, is people, environment, and then profits. Profits comes almost last, since we are doing it for the people, for environment. And like at my town, we are solar, we are green mall. I mean, we use solar all through. And also, I'm sure when you come to development, some trees have to be, we have no choice. We have to take them down. But now, after doing the development, we plant the trees again at the rightful locations. Since that's one of the things which, of course, everywhere there are trees in Kenya. So where do we build? In the Marsabit, Yama somewhere else. Lakini, I mean, we have to build, but we have to do good by planting more trees than we distracted while doing development. Also, when it comes to water, we do recycled water at my town, or we reuse the water, especially for irrigation, for our flower beds, and stuff like that. Thank you.
Yeah, maybe this one, I'll ask this question. I sit in a forum for that, the National Prayer Breakfast thing, so we part of those organized sometimes. And we have resolved that in all our meetings, if there is a Gen Z, we'll always want to ask them, what is it that we want us, the older generation, to do right? Even in the things that we do in business, in the things that we do. Since there is a Gen Z here, what is it that they want us to do right in this business? You don't mind us answering that question?
Thank you again for the opportunity. And as a Gen Z, the first thing, and I think the most important one for us as Gen Zs, is we want to be heard. And I feel like that was the main thing for the protests and all that. We just want to be heard, but not only be heard, but it's not like since we are young, we are just supposed to get to a certain age and then now we can start implementing ideas. Don't take me wrong, old is gold. And I believe that the people who are at the top right now in whatever the sector, I believe they're qualified to be there, or at least if not for anything else, God has placed them there for a reason. And apart from being heard, we also want to actually make developments. There are some of us who have made like great changes, like for example with the whole Maandamano situation, there are some people who they were creating, I don't know if it's apps or websites that you can ask, almost like ChatGPT, but you ask questions regarding even the constitution, like to even help you interpret the finance bill that was there. And also with social media, there was a page, I remember that the Gen Zs, like we were using it to explain the finance bill to other communities in different tribes, now in Maasai, in Meru, in Luya, you get. So it's not just about being heard, but we also want to have our ideas implemented. And at least not implemented, you tell us a reason for why not. Because I believe also just stepping out of the comfort zone as a Gen Z, just you want to express yourself in a certain way. I know there is a why. And I believe in one quote that I want to share with you all today is, which I go by every single day, is he who has a why never lacks a how. Feel free to write that down, that's very wise. So he who has a why never lacks a how. And I believe with some of the topics that you guys can feel, it's just another thing we can brush on the side. If you actually get deeper into it a little and you work with these Gen Zs, I feel like great things can happen. We don't just want to be heard, but we also want to feel the implementation of our ideas taking place. And we just want progress at the end of the day. We all want a better Kenya, a united Kenya, a better world, a united world. So at the end of the day, we're all looking for the same thing. And it's just the implementation of it is different. We all have different ideas to get there, but I believe if we work together, what we're looking for will eventually come one way or another.
I target Mr. Mwenda and CEO of Unity Homes. In this country, there is a misconception that if you want money, you have to go to town, which is wrong. I hope everyone is observing our parents back at home, or people who have seriously invested back at home. If I check on my net worth, while I pride myself that I'm working in town, and I look at the net worth of my mom back in the village, I think she's ahead of me a lot. But she doesn't know. She doesn't know whether she is worth. My mom doesn't know she can build a 3-bedroom house, nicely done interiors, do biodigesters, do good things, just because her potential has never been tapped. Like our Sami said, that anyone who goes abroad, anyone who goes to town, everyone works hard to improve the lives of our parents. But because our parents have not been empowered to know that their cows, their land, their produce can make a difference, our moms come to town to marvel around the buildings and the malls. While Mr. Mwenda, you can build my town mall back in the village, and people will invest there with small markets there. So all these people, the young people, have been burdened. We can say it's burdened by their parents and their folks back at home, just because of misconception, because their potential is not being tapped. I'm yet to see any real estate developer who is targeting the people in the rural areas. Even the banks, they will ask, do you have the title deed for your, what is the proximity to the town for your title deed? Which our parents have big tracts of land and they have security. In fact, they have more security than us in town. So if we can target our parents back at home, it is very good. They can even be able to build their homes and pay mortgage even more than we can build. It was unfortunate, last week I saw a comment from a lady. I don't know whether you have seen that comment passing around in the social media, that why is it that all our parents wait for us to make it in life and then they die? While you have never done anything to her or to him, your parent. Once you have made it in life, it's when your parents die. So if we can tap the potential the parents have in real estate, they can manage.
Thank you. John, you want to take that?
Yeah, I can talk a little bit about, I guess you're talking about that last comment you made about older people in real estate having a lot of knowledge. Some of the best real estate investors I've ever seen in Kenya are extremely Mzee, and they're these often these sort of couples who own 10, even 20 apartment blocks, and they started 30 years ago, and they were patient. And I think, as you were saying, when people get money, they change their behavior, and these people didn't. They kept on a modest lifestyle, and they kept on building more and more apartment blocks and servicing more and more tenants and people. And I think there's a lot to be said for that. That you can definitely, some of the best investors I know in real estate are decidedly elderly. Yeah. So if you are interested in real estate, go and talk to people with a bit of grey hair or a lot of grey hair. Great. Yeah.
Yeah. Let me attempt to answer that question. When I told you it is important to understand who you are dealing with, it's a key to unlocking where you fund. Like, John, you said you took your Unity homes to Eldoret only to realize that they were not, these guys were not buying. Because the most likely thing is that the Eldoret guy who wants to invest already has, that is their thinking.
The market itself.
Yeah, it's not about the market. It is the kind of thing, even for me, I wouldn't want to go and do a place in Eldoret because you do it in the village. If you go to the village, you will find beautiful homes out there because that is a concept around the people of that area. So it's always good also to study the people of the area. Number two, a lot of the younger generation now that are also coming, they are also going to invest in their village homes, which has different features and infrastructure for that matter. Like for us, for example, we got a beautiful home plus cabins that if about 20 people come from abroad for the coffee, they can come and stay there. And we are even doing one in October. They are from 15 different countries. So different setups and concepts are coming up depending on who those individuals are and the areas. So if you have any money to invest, because I've been in the bank, please study first the behavior of where it is. That's why I said I like the Gen Z story, because you can actually know where in 20 years' time where the investments will be by tracking their thinking, how they are doing it. So if you are investing for the future, see how this generation are also thinking, and where the trends are following. There is something called the 25-year plan that comes after every 25 years. What do you think is the next thing? If you want to buy, I think it's always available in the McKinsey report. They think about the 25-year thinking on the same. Think about those things. Even when you are now building Unity homes, you may ignore the concept right now, but let me tell you that these Unity homes on the same itself is going to sell. Reason being, in the future, the young ones who will be coming back, they would want to have a home in this place. So they would want to buy. So buy now. My town, you know the concept of my town. Because my town, you didn't explain the concept, is that everybody is at the front. There is nobody who is behind. So that's a new concept, which I think when I went there, I saw, this is a good concept. Because you have your shop and you are not blocked behind. All the shops are in front, which is a good concept. Who doesn't want to be at the front? So if you are do few, but be at the front. So different concepts are coming to fore. There is a Michelin tires. Did you know that Michelin tires, their major sponsor is in hotels? They give you a badge, and when you get that badge, it's a 3-star, or you get a 3-star badge for that hotel from Michelin tires. The 1 star, it is like good quality. 2-star is that you can actually detour and go to that restaurant. 3-star means you can take restaurant, you can take a journey and travel to Japan, go and eat in that Michelin place. You know, Obama did that. So it's called. If you watch documentaries like Hero Dreams of Sushi, you will see it in there. People are now coming up with different concepts. So I like your concept. If you take your mother's concept and says, okay, fine, this lady is more than me, it's your concept. And you take it on there because everybody is doing it. And that's the reason for all these forums that we are actually gathering is to be able to take and say, what concepts suits me for now? Thank you.
Thank you. Can I add on to that? Always, number one in real estate, the rule number one is location, location, location. So if you don't obey that rule, it will always come to haunt you. So for example, if you are to do a minimum in the village like my town, seriously, who will pay that rent? Who will buy? The spending power is low, that's for sure. Like for example, there's one project we are doing in Kisii, and the moment you tell somebody we are charging like maybe 150 shillings per square feet, they don't understand. Wambia mimi niko na 10,000 per month. So you see, it's not there yet. And if you do it in the wrong location, you'll be stuck. So it's always then go for the right location. Don't go building because you have a plot. I've seen many people make mistakes. You buy a plot somewhere, maybe you're hustling, you're just starting in life. Then now you've made this big money. You bought a plot maybe for 1 million. Then you want to build a house for 20 million in that 1 million plot. Of course, that's the wrong location. If you try even to sell in the future, it will be a bad problem. It will be a big problem. And that's what they're calling dead capital nowadays. Since now you've built a big mansion in your home area, I'm not saying it's bad, but unless maybe you're a politician or you want something in the future, why should you put maybe 20 or 30 million in a place where you can't rent, you can't sell, you can't do anything? I mean, even in business, you know cash flow is the blind line of business. I would rather Instead of putting that 20 million, I'll rather go in a town and build something which brings me income, cash flow. Thank you.
I think we want to close the questions. So only two, here and that one.
Thank you very much, and thank you for the organizers. This has been a great time, well spent. And I think even the choice of the moderator is really cool because you've given us nuggets as we go along. So two of my questions is, one is to Francis, if he can share with us the top 5 skills that he would say are key if you want to move to Canada, whether as a young person or even middle-aged person, across boards, especially in, I think we've heard a lot about the health sector, but we would like to know the 5 top skills that is needed to move to Canada. The other one goes to Unity Homes and MySpace. So how are you taking care of the Gen Zs in mentoring them and in, getting them hard like we've heard from Wenda? And regarding my town concept, you called it a modernized kiosk. So can we invest? So what's the investment opportunity there? Do we buy the kiosk? If you don't want to set up something, can you earn rent from that? And it wasn't very clear. Thank you.
All right, so I'll just go because I'm going to be very brief. You said your question was, what are the top 5 skills that are currently being sought after in Canada? I can speak broadly about some of the job types that I see come across my desk. I don't know the order in terms of which is number 1 or so on, but tech definitely. Most of the areas, most of the fields in the tech space are going to be sought after. Registered nurses are sought after if they're able to overcome the barriers there. High demand. Those are the ones that I can think of right off the top of my head. Healthcare, tech, primarily. There are other areas where they need people from time to time, but those usually are targeted at people who are already inside Canada. But for the most part, tech and healthcare are the most obvious ones. But there are, obviously other people who are getting work permits for other areas of work. But those are the 2 that I see primarily.
Okay. Regarding Gen Z, with regards to Unity Homes, so we have 2 programs that we run for Gen Zs. One is our summer camp internships, which go from July to August. In fact, we've just concluded and graduated about 20 Gen Z interns who live within our Unity Homes as residents. And this is done under the Community Foundation. So we advertise for these internships, and then within our residents who live within our communities, register for them. They are shortlisted, and then they come to work in the various departments that we have there. This has been beneficial because we are giving opportunities to our residents not only to live there and use amenities, but also to give them that head start in life and to get these opportunities. We also have running internships within our normal corporate structure, where every department then has an intern. Our interns, by the way, these are paid internships, and we offer paid internships of $350. That's about $40,000 per month, paid internship for our interns. So they're not there just to gain experience, but they're also rewarded and recognized for the efforts and the ideas that they bring for us. And then maybe lastly is my appeal to Gen Zs with regards to the real estate sector. And Wenda is here, and you can spread this gospel for us, is that we are appealing to you guys to get into the real estate market as early as possible. Many of us and your parents will tell you, when we started our jobs, we got loans. We can't even explain to you what we did with that money. We either bought a car or we furnished our houses by buying, I think, a TV or things like that. With the KMRC loan that the government has given of 9.5%, some banks are even giving 9%. Get on the property ladder early. Get on it now that it's cheaper. You know, we have our 1 bedrooms for 5.7 million only. A lot of the Gen Zs, by the way, in the tech field here, Donathan, I'll tell you that they are earning 150,000 Kenya shillings. With that, you can be able to take the KMRC loan, pay 50,000 every month, and own an investment, which will keep you up until you decide to sell it 10 years later or to bequeath it to the next generation. So that's my appeal to the Gen Zs. Get on the property ladder early, make use of the KMRC loans, and it will really make a difference and set you apart from the other people or your other peers out there in the market. Thank you.
Okay, you asked a question about investing at my town. Of course, at the moment, we did our pilot project, and as we are doing them to package them and be able to sell them to pension fund or to any investor, PE fund, anybody who comes along. Since you have many of the pension funds, they are in circles have burnt their fingers buying plots and subdividing. So now they are looking for assets which are yielding, which are yield. And real estate, of course, has the better yield. So we are looking, once we build, we populate, then we sell it out as an investment. But going forward now, by the time we're in our number 3, we are ended to having REITs, Real Estate Investment Trust, whereby we'll invite investors to come be part of it. I'm sure when you are selling a mall, let's say a unit costs 200,000 or 300,000, it sounds very good to a lady here, I own a mall. Nikweli? So we'll be able to offer those very soon. Real Estate Investment Trust for my town. It's coming.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Carol Kome. I'm a business advisor and a financial advisor by profession, and sometimes we are at pain to explain to a normal common mwananchi what is the return on investment when I'm getting a mortgage and pay 5 times before I'm even 50. So as real estate players, I would wish to see somebody who has a plan that is actually workable to bring down the cost of owning or the cost of investing in real estate. Because if I take a mortgage right now of 10 million, if I do amortization, by the time I'm done with this, it will be costing way above the reach. So I don't know what plans you have or what is in store for this other than now, or how do you make it more accommodating to the common person who earns not so much or who would want to actually get into investing?
Okay, maybe let me start answering that question. So for Unity Homes, what we've done, we've actually set up a mortgage department within our corporate structure, and this is to advise clients on the entire mortgage process, the pros and the cons. Specifically to your question, when you come to us, we'll be able to take you through the entire process, right from the KYC, the paperwork, the application process, and the amortization as well. You're right. Mortgages can tend to be expensive because of the value of the time that it takes to pay that mortgage. But what we advise our clients is that when you get into a mortgage, for one, Unity Homes has priced their mortgage for their houses same as cash price. So if you come with cash ready, you will buy a Unity one-bedroom apartment at 5.7. If you're taking a mortgage, we have extended the same cash price of 5.7 million shillings. And that's to ensure that we are appealing to people who want to take mortgages and own homes through mortgages, not to punitize them, but to encourage them to take the mortgages and get onto home ownerships with the same price as a cash price. A payment plan price, by the way, is 7.4 million, and that's a payment plan of 24 months. So what does a mortgage then, why is it then beneficial? One, it gives you the flexibility to be able to pay over time, as opposed to most people don't have this 5.7 million, for example, or they don't have money to pay within a 24-month payment plan. But the mortgage will give you up to 25 years. And for our one bedroom, for example, at 5.7, you only need 50,000 shillings a month. So you get a mortgage, you're able to spread your payments at 50,000 shillings a month. When you get some windfalls, you top up that money, reducing the principal amount and therefore reducing your interest and reducing the time. What we encourage our customers, for example, is that you're paying the 50,000 shillings as a monthly installment. The rental income on our one bedroom is 34,000. So if you do 50 minus 34, that's how much? 16,000, right? So imagine you're just paying a mortgage for 16,000 shillings per month. Guys, did you hear me? I don't think you heard me. Let's go back to the mathematics. Your monthly installment for a mortgage at 9.5% is 50,000 shillings. Within 6 months, John said that house will be ready. It could be earlier. Within 1 month, we place a tenant there for you, and that is our work. We do that as well through our agents. And then now we say, for example, on the 7th month, you're paying the 50,000, but you're offsetting it against the rental income at 34. So you are just paying 16. So that's what that flexibility is giving you. So that's one option. Another option is you can have, if you can afford it, have the 50, plus you top up the 30, for that you're getting for rental, and you reduce the time on your mortgage. Most people who have taken mortgages are paying their mortgages between 7 to 9 years. And that's because when they get little money here and there, is that instead of sherehe, Gen Z, they put in the money into the mortgage payment and they clear it within the shortest time possible. So that's how it works. And then over time, in 9 years, the 5.7, by the way, and we have an amortization we'll take you through, your house has also appreciated. So in 10 years, if you're selling that house, it will be the equivalent of 15 million. So if you're selling that house for 15 million, which is what maybe your loan or your mortgage will have accumulated to, you see you're still gaining at the end of the day. I'm happy, my colleague is here, Laban, we're happy to take you through the amortization process so that you can really see from your point of view, based on what you earn, what you can afford to pay, how it will work from an individualized perspective.
Just allow me to add something to that. What my colleague is saying.
Time also has now come, yeah. Okay.
The 34,000 shillings you are earning is not forever. And imagine if you
It's not.
So, for example, if you make a deposit here, next year you have to go high. So, in 5 years' time, you are not going to go when you look at the profit. So, please come back here and
To who? Okay. Okay. Yeah, thank you so much. I think we come to the end. But before we come to the end, we just allow the panelists just to 1 minute, and we will finish with the Gen Z there.
Is this a vote of thanks?
Yes.
Thanks. Thanks a lot, everyone. Thanks for your good questions. Thanks for being an attentive audience, and thanks to Lucy for pulling this off while being all the way in Canada. And last I checked, she was still online. God knows what time it is in Canada now. It's late, and she's still on. So much thanks to Lucy. Much thanks, Sammy, for hosting this program. And I'm looking forward to interacting with all of you later today, or if not, then sometime online. But until then, I believe after this, we're going to be having Nyama Choma. No? Okay. They don't serve Nyama Choma here, no? Yes. Okay. All right. All the best. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you. So on behalf of Unity Homes, we are humbled to be part of this partnership together with Bluewater. Lucy, thank you so much for having us and for hosting us. We are privileged, we are grateful, we are thankful for this opportunity. Lucy Jeffrey is our brand ambassador. She's based in Canada. So any Kenyan diaspora who would like to, or who has the need to invest in Kenya and with Unity Homes, she's the one who then introduces us to them. And Lucy has done her due diligence. I will tell you, she's tough. You all know her. You're all here by her invitation. So for her to agree to be a brand ambassador of Unity Homes, it means we have met the test of integrity, the test of delivering projects on time. And please feel free to come and see us. Yesterday, my colleague Laban hosted Donovan and his family last week at Unity Homes. Please spend some 2 minutes with him. Let him tell you about it. For us, most of our customers are the ones who do the marketing for us. It is never the other way around. Ours is just to tell you about our properties. But in terms of the final push, then you get to hear from Donovan and Lucy, for example. So we appreciate your time. Thank you for coming, and God bless you.
When you attend such event is when you get to learn and network, know new people, make new friends, forge business partnerships. That's why I'm very happy we have a Gen Z here. Please, next time you are called in such an event, come along with a friend or two. So that way we build a bigger network and a bigger community. For Lucy, thank you so much for hosting this event. I appreciate you. And on behalf of our AMS Properties, thank you for hosting it in this hotel. And finally, is if you like to get in touch with us at MySpace Properties or MyTown Malls, have charities. Charity Miss, stand up, please. She'll be here to help you, and myself, I'll be here to help you, give you my contact. By the end of the day, apart from doing business, I want to be your friend. Thank you.
So thank you so much, Lucy, for this opportunity. I have learned a lot from the real estate guys and Francis, and I look forward to working with you, Francis. So like I said again, I am Steve Kehonge, and I'm a travel consultant located at Steamer Plaza. We provide visa application services to all countries for visitors. And we also, I forgot to say, we have a college for CNAs and languages like German language at Steamer Plaza in preparation for those who would like to take advantage of the opportunities that are offered abroad. Thank you so much.
Good afternoon, everyone. I want to thank you all for coming here today. I also want to thank Lucy for organizing the event. And I wouldn't say much. I just want to tell you all about my 4 principles. And then I'll tell you the conclusion of it all in the end. The first principle that I have is respect. And I believe, while growing up, my mom was a tough mom, because I was also trying to be very cheeky and all that. And I just remember one day she told me I should treat the janitor with the same kind of respect I will treat the CEO of a certain company. Yeah, CEO of a certain company. Yeah. But anyway, so respect is key. And I just believe with respect, that's now what brings about humility. And I believe it's very tough, or even you just cannot learn without humility. And that's why I believe you should just be down to earth. You don't want to be prideful or egotistical or whatever. You just want to be humble with your doings. And the third one is honesty. And for honesty, I just believe the truth will set you free with whatever you're doing. And with honesty, you should try as much as possible to be honest with yourself. Because another thing, even if you're not, the one person you cannot lie to is yourself. And a quote for this is, you should be strict with yourself, but tolerant with others. The principles I'm saying, for me, I hold them to a certain degree that I don't expect someone to hold as well, but I will appreciate if they did. And now the last one for such meetings as this also is audacity. I know audacity it sounds like a strong word, but for me, I just believe it's the initiative. I'm just the ability to just take that risk, because you never know. I believe in opportunities, and for one thing I know about opportunities is they have no owners, and that's for events like this. If you want to take part in something like real estate, you talk to my namesake Mwenda, like I will in a few minutes. Thank you. And you just have that confidence with yourself, and you take that risk, because you never know what will happen. You might be the one. I like to live on, it sounds a little bit delusional, like I like to live on the what if side of life. What if this is that day this happens? What if I do this, this is what will make it happen? And so with these 4 principles, I like to tell people wherever I go, because I believe it's very important for you to set ground rules, or just to make your path for success. Because at the end of the day, you never know if you're doing well, if you're going backwards without a certain plan or strategy. And that's why I believe my principles, of course I make mistakes here and there, I'm human, but at the end of the day, it's not about trying to be perfect, but it's just about trying to be the best human being you can be to others and to yourself, and to just overall work with people and to make the world a better place. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. That is, opportunities don't not have owners. That is a quote of the day. Yeah. Thank you, Mwenda. Finally, we just want to thank Unity Homes, John Latham and your team, because you sponsored and you came. Thank you, Stephen Kihonge. On behalf of Lucy, she extends all thank you to you. On behalf of Lucy herself and the Entrepreneur Nation, because she runs a business on the other side. Yeah, Mwenda, Turanira, thank you for my space. And thank you all for attending. Lucy extends how she's not slept. That's what she's just shown me that she's sending. Imagine, I used to be the boss. Now she tells me, Sammy, can you go and do this for me? And I had to take a flight to wherever I was to come in here. So it means if you are working, identify. Like now, you see, I've identified that Mwenda because of what he just said there, you can see. Then we have also identified the fact that Gen Z needs to be part of what we are doing so that we can be able to study. Donovan Francis and family, thank you because you came. And you've explained, when these guys come to Canada, please receive them. If I apply, tell them not to deny mine because they would think, okay, this guy has already left the bank, so no, I have some property here, so I'll still have to come back. Yes, I have ties to this place. We just want to thank you, but overall, we just also want to thank Stephen and the team, this hotel, everyone. Thank you for everything. Thank you for those ones who have really put in their time. But Lucy, I can only describe her from the words that you used. She's a phenomenal woman.
Yes, Sammy has given the Thanksgiving. So personally, on behalf of Lucy again, I want to thank all of you, those who came for the first time, the second time, the third time. You never get to try. I'm sure you've made networks. Actually, personally, on my other end where I work, I got a referral from our very first meeting, and it worked. So it's about business, making networks, and your networks are your network. So thank you so much for everyone who attended today. And as we close, we'll have, yeah? Oh, okay, yeah. We have another event in December 11th. So the venue will be communicated and the times will be communicated. On the final one, we'll have a photo of all the speakers, then of everyone. Then we can break for lunch. Lucy shares with me that everyone has a vote. Everyone who was designated for lunch, she sent an email for the voucher. So the hotel team will guide us to where we'll have lunch. Asanteni. for the photo session, the speakers and John and your team. Standing here.
Wash it. Thank you. Except the speakers, everybody else, then the second group is doing it.
So I was trying to look for